On December 15th, 2002, just 45 days after being released from serving a 2-year prison sentence, I was arrested for attempted murder. More on that later on in the video. Whew. My last video, we unboxed my 1 million subscriber plaque. I went on to mention that I'm going to make a couple of very special videos, and I thought, what better way to commemorate reaching 1 million subscribers than to tell the truth of how and why I got into the hobby, and to elaborate on that, how it saved my life and changed it forever. What has truly inspired me to make this video, though, is the messages that I get on a daily basis from people telling me their stories about what the hobby has done for them, how it's changed their lives and saved them, how my videos helped them get through certain things like depression, PTSD, etc. I don't get hundreds a day, but I do get them every single day. I want those people to know that you are not alone, and we have way more in common than you might think. I hope this video sheds a little bit more light on myself and who I am, why it is I do what I do, and at the very least, I hope it will inspire you. We're gonna have to back up a little bit here, though. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Joey Mullen, known as the King of DIY on YouTube. I'm 35 years old. I live in Truro, Nova Scotia, Canada. I wish I took some notes on how to present this to you so the timeline makes sense. I'll start from when I first got my first experience with aquatic pets. I was 7 years old. It was 1990, I believe it was. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, came out for the first time. And to put this into perspective, Finding Nemo came out several years ago, and for a lot of people that's seen it, they all wanted a clownfish. Well, my generation, when Ninja Turtles came out, we all wanted turtles. My first aquatic pet was 4 red-eared slider turtles. So for those that say, Joey, get some turtles, I've had them before. I named them Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello. The picture you're seeing is me getting them for my birthday in a little bag. I believe it was about a year or two later that I lived in Ontario. A year or two later, we moved to Nova Scotia, and I wasn't able to bring them into the province due to provincial laws, so that was my time. Never touched another aquatic animal. So I could say I've been in the hobby since I was 7, but I think that's a bit ridiculous. I've only been in it since I was 19, 16 years ago, and been in it ever since, like steady, never, taking a break type of deal. My life was pretty normal. I was never well off. My family was never rich. Probably a little bit below like middle class. Maybe even a little bit below middle class. But my father and I have 3 sisters and my mother, I thought we had a great life. Eventually my parents started fighting. It became violent and they divorced. I was 9 years old and I didn't see my father again till I was, I think I was 19. And 19 was the last time I seen him. So from the age of 9 moving forward, I never had a father. My mother, a young mother, and I don't want to put my mother in a bad light, but it's a part of my story. Without her, I wouldn't be who I am. Without this story, I wouldn't be where I am. If I had taken any different path, anything at all would have changed in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. When my father left, we were on welfare immediately. He never supported us in any way. And in my opinion, there's different levels to welfare. You could be on welfare and still get by, or you could be on welfare and live in poverty-stricken conditions, and that was me in the latter. My mother was an alcoholic and a drug abuser. I went from living a normal life to living a life where violence was every day, abuse, encouraged to fight, encouraged to steal, just raised like an animal And when you're raised like that, you will act no different. I'm not going to get into the gory stories. We all have them. I've done some terrible things in my life. Absolutely terrible. But to summarize, when you're a young child living a life like that, you're usually wearing the same clothes all the time. You don't have nice things. Nobody's making you go to school. You wake up and there's no food. You don't have to go to school if you don't want to because there's no consequences or repercussions to not going. But when I would go, I was teased and bullied a lot. This is going to be really tough for me to talk about because I'm saying a lot of things out loud for the first time. I quickly realized that people would stop making fun of me and picking on me for things that were out of my control. I know a lot of people and kids can be cruel. And if you're a young kid, embrace the other children that don't have a lot. Maybe they don't have a lot of friends. Maybe they don't dress nicely. You don't know what's going on at home. It's not their fault. It's out of their control. But for me, instead of building up a shell and becoming isolated, based on the conditions I was living in and what I was encouraged to act like, I began to act out. A lot of it just started with acting out in class, getting in trouble, suspensions. By the age of, grade 6, I was expelled for life, not allowed back to that school ever. Grade 7, failed, same story, expelled for life. But what I found was if I became the class clown and was funny and acted out, people would stop picking on me. They thought it was funny to be around. I was their entertainment. At my expense and my future, they could have a good laugh. That only lasted for so long before you get into older grades and around older kids, and I became violent. Extremely violent. This was just acting out from what was going on in my household. From the brutality and the violence and everything that I was witnessing and being put through and what was happening to me. I was projecting that onto other people. I'm not a big person physically. But I learned to embrace violence and really, really like it. I gained respect from being violent, and I couldn't beat everybody up, and I don't think I can fight the world and beat everybody up. But what I quickly realized is that people would stop teasing me if they knew they were going to get a punch in the mouth. That is not the answer for kids watching. Don't do this. This is just my life and what I went through. You see, even if somebody could beat you up, if they know that you're going to react in a violent way no matter what and no matter who they are, they're going to make the different choice. And that's basically what I realize is that if I fight all the time, no matter who it is, whether I get beat up, win or lose, eventually they're going to stop. And it got out of hand for me. I'm going to summarize even more. I don't really want to talk about what happened at home, or the things I saw, or the things I did. But what I do want to talk about is the consequences. I began getting in trouble. Now in Canada, under the Young Offenders Act, I'm pretty much free to do whatever I want up until a certain age, like 13 or something like that. There's not a whole lot that can be done. I was burning buildings down. I was constantly fighting. There was guns involved at times. And it was just like I was running free. Eventually I hit the age of, I think it was 14, where I could start going to court and whatnot. Laws have changed over the past 20 years, of course, 25 years. I started getting slaps on the wrists, warnings, probation, little fines here and there. The judges were always telling me, you keep coming back and you're going to jail. There's points in my life that I became homeless. I had to do certain things to in order to survive. By the time I hit 15, I started going to jail. Ended up serving a year. Doing a week here, and then you get sentenced to a month, then 3 months, then I got sentenced to a year. I think I was 16 at the time. Got out when I had just turned 17. My life at this point was horrible. I was being told, you're not going to make it till you're 25 years old. You're always going to be in jail. You're never going to be anything. Teachers didn't want me in their classes. Nobody wanted me around except people that were poison in my life that were acting the same way. I'm not going to get into the details of the charges and what I actually did. But for those that have been to jail, they were respectable charges type of deal. Never did anything that I'd have to go into PC for. Bottom line is, though, jail didn't make me a better person. Jail made me an animal. When I went in as a juvenile, I put on 40 pounds of muscle, and I was in gladiator school. All I did was fight. Fight, fight, and fight. If you ever watch my videos and see my hands, they're crippled. I can't straighten them. It hurts to make fists. And I'm only 35, and I'm probably not going to be able to close my hands by the time I'm 40 based on problems with them. You know, I've had teeth knocked out. My head's busted open. I got scars all over my head. Just a violent, violent environment. But I loved every minute of it. I realized how sick I was. But I embraced it. I realized this is who I am. This is who all I'm ever going to be. Just like everybody kept telling me, I started believing them. If you continue to put a kid down and you continue to tell them their one thing, they're going to believe it. And who are you to be surprised or to be like figured when they do exactly what you keep telling them? What they're going to do and who they're going to be. And eventually I got sentenced to 2 years. I was 17 years old on juvenile charges. I got sentenced, I did 2 years. I got sentenced to 43 months, 46 months, something like that, which is almost 4 years. It was a cumulative of charges. When I got out, originally, within 2 months, I was back in. I spent 3 years, over 3 years of my teens locked up. I got out and I was worse than ever. That's where we come into this paperwork. I just found this the other day and I realized I've had dates wrong for a long time and I forgot about a lot of things. I have this unique ability about myself, and I don't know if it's a curse or if it's a good thing or if it's some sort of, mental disability of some sort. You'll find that I don't mind talking about this stuff because I'm completely comfortable with who I am. I'm not embarrassed and I'm not ashamed. I embrace who I am and what I've done. But I have this ability to forget negativity. I have this ability to forget traumatic events, horrible things that have happened, until they come up and I realize how much they still affect me. So while I'm not really telling you guys a whole lot right now, I can assure you that a lot of things are running through my mind and I'm reminding myself of things, and it's making this video really tough to make. I think at this moment in time you can see how far I've come, but at the same time I was never who you thought I was. I still have certain tendencies that I used to have. I still get pretty angry sometimes. I still get pretty defensive. I'm still working on becoming a better person. I was released from that 2-year prison sentence on November 8th, on October 31st. November 8th, 8 days later, I was arrested again for getting in a fight and, back to my old ways type of thing. The judge was very, very lenient and gave me a chance. He said, you spent the night in jail, and the record did show that the other guy started the fight. He just didn't win it. So he gave me a little bit of a fine, a breach of probation, and that was it. My wife, Tanya, I've known her all my life. Probably since I moved to Nova Scotia when I was about 9 years old. 10 years old, something along those lines. We dated in junior high and elementary school, believe it or not. So she knew I was kind of bad. We met again when I was 19. I had just been out for a very short period of time. But she didn't realize how bad things have gotten with me. And I never really bragged about it or said, I never said like how much of a badass I am. I mean, if you got to tell people that, then you never really were. I think a big reason to me fighting as well is I was never good at arguing. I could never win an argument. I can't win an argument of people teasing me that I'm dressed like a bum, or my clothes are dirty, or I don't have lunch, or I can't win that argument. I just don't have it. There's nothing I can do about that. So I would never argue. I wouldn't even say anything. I would just start swinging and fighting. I would just outburst immediately. And she's seen a lot of that because I had a drinking problem at one point. Drank a lot, and we'd go out and I'd fight everybody and anybody that wanted it. Win or lose. I just loved it. All through my childhood, though, I had some best friends. And one of them was getting married. He was getting married that November 8th. I'm not going to say his name, but he knows who he is. Of 2002. We were best friends growing up. He was like my brother. But he got with this girl who didn't want him to have anything to do with me because I was bad. Didn't invite me to the wedding. I showed up anyways. I didn't go to their wedding because I didn't want to ruin that, but I showed up to the reception that was at a hotel. I didn't make it to the reception area. I was sidetracked by a group of people that were there that I knew but weren't my friends. And I already knew there was tension. They wanted to go back to a hotel room that was in the hotel and have some drinks and stuff like that. So I was like, cool. I already felt something was wrong. There were 6 of them. And it was me and Tanya. As soon as we get in the room, I realize there's nothing in here. There's no alcohol at all. 2 of them close the door and stand by it, and then there's a sliding door or an opening door that went outside of the hotel into the parking lot. 2 went there. Then 2 confronted me. Why are you here? Etc., etc. Then I seen a knife. I knew I was about to get jumped and maybe stabbed. I immediately reacted and grabbed the knife that one of them had and put it against the throat of the main aggressor. It's funny that you can say all you want, I would never do this or I would never do that. You don't know what you're capable of until you're put in the situation during certain circumstances and an atmosphere. You really don't know. It's scary. I've been in so many of these situations. Number one person I don't trust at one point was myself. The knife is to his throat. They immediately react. I get shoved from the side. It goes across his throat. He's bleeding. Everybody sees it, and immediately calling the cops, I run out the door, take the knife, and I throw it as far as I can. They come out, and we start fighting. The cops show up and tackle me to the ground. They did a number on me, put me in the car, and I'm like, why are you arresting me? What's happening? What's going on? And the cops are being really mean. They're screaming at me. I think I was pepper sprayed. Just shut your effing mouth. Slamming the door, I start trying to kick the windows out, just losing my mind. I don't know where Tanya is at that time, but I believe she's trying to help me get out of the car. They arrest her, throw her in the back seat of another car. The cops go in, ambulance shows up and take him out on a stretcher. I realize how bad things are. Turns out he just needed a few stitches, but the cop comes back in. And I remember him opening the door. I was really intoxicated. But I remember him opening the door, and it felt like he punched me in the throat. But he grabbed me by my shirt, I believe, because it was all ripped the next day. It might not have been him. And did it really fast, so it felt like he punched me in my throat, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't breathe. And he's like, you almost killed him. He's like, he's like, that was attempted murder. You're being arrested for attempted murder. I go to jail for the night and court the next morning. Or 2 days later, something along those lines. The cops do their investigation and officially charge me after their investigation, and they hear those guys' side of the story about luring me in, because they were interviewed when they were intoxicated. Bad idea, because they're still inebriated. They're still, their inhibitions are a little looser, and they're still trying to act tough. Me, I've been to jail. I know to keep my mouth shut. I'm not saying anything. They're talking, what's your name? What did you do? Etc. I'm not telling you anything. You do the investigation. This is my attitude then. It was not now. I can't believe I'm telling this story. This isn't even the worst one. This is just the last straw. The guys admit to drawing me into the room and say that I did the knife because I was scared. So it was almost like self-defense. But in Canada, if somebody has a knife, you can't grab a gun type of deal. You're going above and beyond. Or if they want to fight with their hands, you can't hit them with a bat. I guess it depends on the situation and whatnot, but they dropped the charges down to, I got a breach of probation for breaching the peace, 2 breaches actually, possession of a weapon and assault with a weapon is what I officially was charged with. Trial for those charges were set to be 5 months later. I was looking at between 5 to 7 years. Is what my legal aid lawyer told me. And I was just, I was like, I'm literally living the life that everybody said I would. I'm going to be in jail for the rest of my life. I got 2 little cousins that were like my little brothers, that we grew up together. We went through a lot of things together. I eventually changed my life and they stayed on that path. They're in jail for the rest of their lives for murder. And they weren't even as bad as me. They looked up to me. They wanted to be like me. During the 5 months leading up to trial, witnesses and people that gave statements, I don't want to say too much, but bottom line is, nobody showed up to court. No witnesses came. The case was dismissed or dropped, or whatever the legal jargon is here. Basically says, I don't have all my paperwork, but I do have some of it. Essentially, just to summarize, my case was adjourned. It says that this is confirming the incident that happened at the hotel, and the court date basically states that at the time, one of the Crown witnesses, one that we wish to cross-examine the most, was absent. This was the one guy that was saying I was scared and they were there to do this to me and that's why I did it, etc. My lawyer believed I could get off with protecting myself and being in those situations. None of the witnesses showed up, though. My lawyer questioned me if I had anything to do with that. I told him no. Based on who I was at the time, though, I think you guys know the answer as to what actually happened there. So I beat these charges, sort of. But this was the last straw. You see, Tanya noticed that something had to be done about me. She knew there was good in me. And one of the only times that I was truly calm and excited and my eyes would light up was when I went to the fish store at the mall. It was in the fish store. The fish store was in the mall. Every time I would go in there, I was fascinated. I loved it. One of my biggest memories of seeing fish during that time frame, one of my best memories is I was so fascinated with the idea that they were living under the water. I couldn't get over that. I didn't understand how any of that worked. I'm like, what do you do? You can't breathe. How is this working? It was just so interesting and fascinating, and the complexities of it, and how I look at it now is like, oh yeah, they have gills and they extract oxygen from the water through blah, 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 blah. But at the time I was like, this is so complex and mesmerizing and fascinating. Then I go back to my regular life, no job, robbing, doing whatever I could. Then Tanya got me a fish tank. My life forever changed. I finally had something to dump that energy into. Something to do with my idle hands. Something to look forward to. Something to get a job so I could buy a bigger fish tank and get more fish stuff. And my life slowly started to change. I didn't want to do certain things anymore because I wanted to do fish tank stuff. My life was slowly changing and all my friends made fun of me. Calling me a loser and a geek. Not to my face, but making fun of me. And I was like, this is the first time in my life where I'm actually interested in something that I'm actually looking forward to. And you want to bag on me for that? What kind of friend are you? Friends should be your cheerleaders. A year later, I got my GED. Two years later, it looks like, March 2004. This is the only education that I have. I dropped out. I was in jail. There's no school. Well, it's optional. Well, I'm not going. I regret that, but I eventually got my GED. My life began to change. I discovered fish clubs and people just like me. And I realized for the first time, I felt like I belonged. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew my past. Nobody cared about it. Nobody cared about how much money I made or the color of my skin or what religion or political views I had. Nobody cared about any of that. And that's one of the most beautiful things about the hobby is none of that matters. We just want to see your fish tanks. I couldn't believe it. And that's when it got real bad for me. I was like, this is awesome. I love it. I can become somebody new. I can just change. I started making YouTube videos. And I discovered you guys. And for like 4 or 5, 6 years, I made videos with barely any subscribers. I mean, it took me 3 years to get something like 300 subscribers. Nobody was watching me, but I didn't care. I had a purpose. I had something to look forward to. I had something positive to do for once, for the first time. In the background, I'm having kids now. I've got jobs, regular jobs, but because of my past and my education, I have to take general laborer jobs or whoever will hire me. I pumped gas. I worked in the woods. I worked at call centers. I worked in production facilities. I worked at a gym. I mean, I would do anything that didn't require anything more than a GED. And I wanted to better myself, but having kids at such a young age and needing to make money, I was just working so much. Just trying to get by. The luxury of taking my time to better myself, I was gone. I ruined my future and potentially now my children's. YouTube got more and more serious for me. And in a future video, I'll walk you through what really happened with YouTube and how much money I made and what it really took and the sacrifices and the work and, stories I've never told before. Before you knew it, we had 100,000 subscribers. Then we hit 1 million. Making only fish tank videos. Only aquariums. Talking about the only thing that I've ever been interested in my life besides violence. For those that are struggling out there and having a rough life, don't let your past depict your future. It's not too late to change, reinvent yourself, remove people from your life, focus on yourself and yours. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. And at the very least, stop caring what other people think of you. People don't want to see you win. And when you do, they will try to bring you down. You might see it happen to me a lot, where people with insecurities and living miserable lives see me having some success and gotta find something to bring me down about, but know nothing about me and have zero clue how passionate or how much love or how much I put into this or what this really actually means to me. I do what I do because I feel like I owe so much back to the hobby. These days I wake up and I cannot explain to you how excited I am to be me. For the first time, I'm so proud of who I am. And I get made fun of all the time for how excited I am on video or, I'm hyper or he's gotta be on drugs or this or that or the other thing. And now you know where I came from. Now you can see if it wasn't for where I am right now, I might be dead or in prison for the rest of my life. But I get to do this. So you're damn right I'm excited to make videos. You're damn right I can barely contain myself at times. I've said it a few times that I come from the gutter. I guess now you understand why. In retrospect, based on my past, I suffer from depression. I still do. Anxiety. Sometimes I don't like to leave my house. Sometimes things come back to haunt me. And one of the only things that helps me is continuing to make these videos. I am so grateful that you guys gave me a chance. You saved my life and have changed it forever. I'm not who I used to be, but I'm excited about who I've become and who I'll be tomorrow. And I'm so happy that I'm bringing you guys along for the journey. And although this video is painful for me to make and risky in terms of like how people might look at me now, I'm not making it for those people that are going to look down on me. I'm making it for those people that look up to me. And I don't feel that it's right that you look up to me. Rather look over to me. I'm standing right beside you.